We'd been married for 2 decades. From the outside, it looked solid. A good home, kids who grew up happy, a dependable husband who was always there. But inside, I felt like I was slowly disappearing. Life wasn't bad, but it wasn't alive either. Everything was routine: breakfast, chores, bills, sleep. And part of me started to wonder, is this all there is for me? I used to fill the quiet with chores, with the kids' laughter, with work. But when the kids got older and life slowed down, the silence between my husband and me became deafening. He was steady, reliable, a good man, but he never really saw me anymore, not the way he did in the early years. I felt invisible, like a background character in my own life. I didn't plan to slip. I didn't plan for temptation. But when someone new looked at me and actually noticed me, it woke something inside I thought was long gone. It wasn't some grand affair. It wasn't even love. It was a moment, a stolen evening where I felt seen, wanted, alive again. For the first time in years, someone asked me about me, not just about dinner, bills, or the kids' schedules. I told myself it was harmless, just conversation, just attention. But then it crossed the line, and once it did, I couldn't take it back. I went home that night, kissed my children goodnight, and looked at my husband sleeping in bed. I wanted to scream at myself, but instead, I just crawled in next to him and pretended nothing happened. The days after were the hardest. I walked through the house with this invisible weight strapped to my chest. Every laugh, every kiss from my kids, every casual, "How was your day?" from my husband made me feel like a fraud. He looked at me with those tired but trusting eyes, and I wanted to tell him, God, I wanted to confess, but I didn't. Instead, I smiled, cooked dinner, folded laundry, and carried on like nothing had changed, except everything had. I couldn't unsee what I had done. I couldn't undo the betrayal. The worst part, he didn't notice. Not then, not for a long time. I thought the guilt would fade, but it didn't. It seeped into every corner of my life. When my husband kissed me goodnight, I turned slightly so he wouldn't feel how tense I was. When he hugged me, I stiffened, just enough to notice. I wasn't cold, just broken. I started overcompensating, cooking his favorite meals, laughing at his bad jokes louder than before, buying little gifts just because. But underneath, I was rotting. The man I loved, the man I promised forever to, was sleeping beside someone who had betrayed him. He didn't know, and that almost made it worse, because I had stolen his choice. And every day I woke up thinking, will today be the day I tell him? Or will I keep lying until the end? The hardest part wasn't my guilt. It was his kindness. He still kissed me on the forehead when he left for work, still brought home my favorite chocolate bar when he stopped at the store, still reached for my hand during movies. Every time he did, it felt like a knife in my chest. His love was real. His trust was whole. And I was the only one who knew it wasn't deserved.
I thought about confessing so many times. I even rehearsed it in my head. It happened once. I'm sorry. I regret it every day. But then I'd look at his face, soft, warm, full of belief in me, and I'd choke on the words. Because if I told him, I wouldn't just ruin his trust, I'd ruin us. So I stayed silent, smiling through the weight. And he kept loving me without knowing he was loving a liar. It didn't take long for the guilt to start showing through. Sometimes, when he'd look at me with that soft, steady gaze, I'd have to turn away before he noticed the tears welling up. Other times, I'd snap over something trivial, dirty dishes, late texts, socks on the floor, just to push him away before he got too close to the truth. He didn't fight back. He thought I was stressed, tired, maybe hormonal. He kept being patient, which only made me feel worse. Nights were the worst. I'd lie next to him, listening to his breathing, and feel this weight pressing down on my chest. A part of me wanted to shake him awake and scream, "I'm not who you think I am." But another part, the selfish part, wanted to protect the life we had. It was late, long after the kids had gone to bed. He was sitting at the kitchen table, hunched over bills, the soft light making his face look older, gentler. I stood there, watching him, my throat tight. I opened my mouth to speak. The words were there, clawing their way up. I cheated. I'm sorry. Please hate me. Please leave me. Please free me from this. But then he looked up at me and smiled. Just a small, tired smile. And I froze. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the one to shatter him, to rip apart the family we had built. So instead, I sat down, poured him another cup of tea, and asked about his day. Inside, though, I was crumbling. Every moment of silence between us was filled with the ghost of what I'd done. Every touch felt like a lie. And yet, I chose silence again. Life didn't stop after that night. Kids grew older, responsibilities piled up, birthdays and anniversaries passed. From the outside, we looked like a normal, functioning family. Friends even told me they admired our marriage. But inside, I carried the weight. The memory of that mistake didn't fade with time. It grew heavier. Every time he looked at me with trust, every time he bragged to someone about what a loyal wife I was, I felt like I was choking. I tried to drown it with kindness. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, held him close when he was tired. But those moments weren't clean. They were stained by the truth I never told him. Sometimes I wondered if he could feel it, if somewhere deep down he knew. But he never asked, never suspected. He just loved me, blindly, purely. And that, more than anything, was the punishment. There were so many moments I wanted to confess. Late nights when we were lying in bed, quiet, and my chest ached with the need to say, "I'm not who you think I am." But then I'd see him sleeping peacefully, or I'd hear our kids laughing in the next room, and I couldn't do it. I told myself that confessing would only destroy everything, That one moment of my weakness didn't deserve to wreck an entire family. So I stayed silent. I poured myself into being the perfect wife. I made sure holidays were magical. I supported his career. I kissed him goodbye every morning like nothing was wrong. To everyone else, I was the devoted partner. To him, I was still his loyal wife. And in a way, I convinced myself too that maybe actions could outweigh mistakes, that maybe if I just kept loving him enough, it would erase the truth. But it never did.
Over the years, I noticed how the secret began to shape me. I smiled too quickly when he complimented me because I felt undeserving. I flinched when he said things like, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," because the words cut like glass. I was still present, cooking meals, raising kids, planning birthdays, but inside, a piece of me lived apart, a hidden part, carrying the memory like a shadow. Sometimes when he looked at me with pure trust in his eyes, I'd want to scream. Other times, I'd convince myself that maybe everyone carries something hidden, that perfection is just an illusion. But at night, when the house was quiet, it haunted me. The truth was still there, always there. The strangest part of carrying this secret was how natural life looked from the outside. To him, nothing was broken. He laughed with me, trusted me, leaned on me. He believed in the picture we'd built together. Sometimes I'd watch him telling stories to the kids or fixing something around the house, and I'd feel this crushing wave of guilt. He deserved honesty. He deserved someone who didn't flinch when he said, "I love you." But I never told him, not once. And that decision, to stay silent, shaped our whole marriage. It allowed us to survive, but it also meant that a quiet distance always existed. He never noticed it, but I did. And it grew heavier every year. Time didn't erase what I'd done. It layered over it. Birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, smiles and photographs, trips we saved up for, family dinners where everything looked normal. But every happy moment had a shadow in my mind. I could never fully relax into joy because I knew it was built on silence. There were nights when he'd fall asleep quickly, breathing slow and steady beside me, and I just lie there, staring at the ceiling. The thought would hit me again and again. If he knew, he'd never look at me the same way. And so I carried it. For him, for the kids, maybe for myself too. But every year it grew heavier, not lighter. As the children became teenagers and then adults, my guilt shifted shapes. At first, it was about protecting their innocence, making sure they grew up in a stable home where they saw love, not fractures. Later, it was about protecting their respect for me, for their father, for what we had built together. Sometimes, at family gatherings, I'd catch myself watching them laugh, play, or share stories, and a thought would burn in the back of my mind. If they knew who their mother really was, would they still look at me this way? That fear of losing not just my husband, but my children's trust kept my lips sealed. I smiled wider, worked harder, loved deeper. But no matter how much good I tried to pile on top, I could never bury the truth completely. 25 years have passed since that night, and the secret still sits inside me like an old scar, healed over, but always there if I press too hard.
My husband never found out. He grew older beside me, steady, loving, faithful in ways I sometimes felt I didn't deserve. Our children became adults, and to them, we're the picture of a strong marriage. To everyone else, we're proof that love can last. But inside, I know there's a fracture no one sees. I chose silence, and in doing so, I chose to live with the guilt instead of breaking my family apart. Sometimes I wonder if that was selfish or selfless. Reddit, do you think I was wrong for keeping this secret all these years? Did I do the right thing by protecting my family? Or did I just build my life on a lie that never should have been buried?